2012 City Commission meeting will come to order. Madam City Manager. Oops, excuse me.
Please stand and join me in the invocation. Gracious God, we pause during this busy holiday season and the last official City Commission meeting of 2012 to give thanks for a creative and caring community that responds generously to the needs of others during this time of year. As we prepare to exit the old and enter the new year, plant the seeds of peace and goodwill toward all men in our hearts and spirits. We are grateful for and recognize the responsibility you have given us as public servants, and we continue to seek your guidance in all things in which we endeavor. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Well, we're going to, the next agenda modifications.
Mr. Mayor, we have one item, one change to today's agenda, and that is an item pulled from consent by Commissioner, yes, by Commissioner Miller. It's item number 9.03.
Is that on consent?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, 9.03?
Yes. And those are the only mods that I have.
All right. That's pulled. 9.03 is pulled from
I do want to note that the presentation that we have scheduled under 5.01, the recognition of Neighborhood Leadership Academy graduates, will occur later on during the meeting when they have a chance to get here.
Yeah, we'll wait until probably just before break,
Yes.
since we have to break, to recognize the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. Next item. We pulled items from consent. Is that
We
next?
don't have any appearances. We
We do have one.
We do have
citizen that came.
one citizen input on agenda items.
yeah, we got a citizen input.
That is Curtis Baines on item 13.04.
13, Mr. Baines on 13.04. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Curtis Baines, 1323 East Tennessee Street. I wanted to take a moment before. I know this is not an action item this evening on 13.04. It's just a discussion item, if I understand it correctly, but I nevertheless wanted to be in part of the discussion and mention to you that renew my efforts in previous comments regarding sewer in the south side. Primarily, actually everything in the primary springs protection zone. There are two primary areas. One is the Woodville urban fringe. The other is what I believe your master water and sewer plan calls the Munson Lake, which I'm calling the Oak Ridge because it could be more consistent with the Oak Ridge sector plan, which is, I realize, 70% unincorporated and only 30% incorporated. But nevertheless, this is a community-wide issue, a regional issue, I believe, in trying to promote central sewer in the area. And the real question that we're going to be having during this process is whether we're going to continue using on-site septic systems for the better part of the next century to treat wastewater effluent on the south side in the primary springs protection zone, or whether we want to start spending the better part of the next 30 years trying to convert as many septic tanks to central sewer as possible. And I think, if I remember the master plan correctly, by the time, by 2030, we could have over 5,000 septic tanks converted to central sewer. We could be putting almost 1 million gallons a day through advanced wastewater treatment with central sewer, as opposed to septic tanks. So when you're having your discussions here in the bigger picture, that's where I think we ought to be going, and this is what I have urged the county to do as well. Although I'm not real sure They had 3 other projects or a couple other projects, one of which wasn't even in the primary springs protection zone. I've mentioned this to them on a couple occasions that, yeah, 2, that's where they need to be focusing their efforts. And even the Water Resources Committee has said that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck is central sewer in those areas, not in all rural areas, because there are some areas where it's so far apart, connections are so far apart, it's just not going to be economically feasible. But everything out to Capitol Circle, most of that is dense enough now that it makes sense to sewer. So I would pass that along to you as you're discussing this item this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any others?
No other citizens at this time.
Move consent.
Second.
Consent is moved all except 9.03. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. 903. Commissioner Miller.
Mayor and Commissioners, I only pull this because I need to abstain because I have a relative that's involved in one of the contracts, so, one of the, I guess you'd call them contractors. So with that, I move.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes 4 with 1 abstention. 4-0, 1 abstention.
3, Mayor.
Commissioner Matticus is,
Who else?
Commissioner Matticus.
Commissioner Maddox is not on the
Also,
dais.
he's not here?
He's not on the
President.
dais.
Oh, I didn't look down that way. It passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Next item.
Okay, the next item is item number 13.01, initiation of a comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use category. And Commissioners, this is a request for the City Commission to initiate a comp plan amendment to change future land use category from residential preservation to suburban, and also to rezone from residential preservation to neighborhood commercial at 3417 Fred George Road. The comp plan amendment and associated zoning change will correct the legal non-conforming status of an existing convenience store that was created when Huntington Woods development of regional impact development order was rescinded in 2010. Staff is recommending the initiation of the amendment at this time, and I believe is Roxanne here?
Any questions on this? I think this is the thing this is the one we've been dealing with, Fred George and Capitol Circle.
Yes.
Good afternoon. This is out at Huntington Woods, and basically this is simply a corrective action that staff would like for you to initiate.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It passes unanimously. Next item.
The next item is 13.02, discussion of initial appointments to the Joint City-County Bicycle Work Group. And Commissioners, in response to various local cycling groups and also citizen requests for greater involvement in local bicycle-related planning, the City Commission adopted a resolution creating the 12-member Joint City-County Bicycle Work Group in July of 2012. The Leon County Board of Commissioners adopted a similar enabling resolution on June 26th, and they took action on yesterday, making appointments to this committee. Since adoption, the City of Tallahassee and Leon County have solicited applications from the community for initial appointments, and staff is recommending to use 6 names for this appointment. Megan Doherty is here to answer any questions that you
Move
have on this
approval.
item.
Second.
Am I to understand correctly that the names in bold print are what?
Ours.
Those are ours. And have the ones in the other print, have they been approved?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
I'm just
Were those
surprised.
the ones that were approved by the
That's
county?
what They were approved by the county.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. 5 of the names that were on there that are not bolded were approved by the county. The county elected to appoint an additional applicant.
Somebody else?
Yes.
Could you tell us who that other individual is?
Yes, it was George Deloge.
George Deloge?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any relation to,
I believe he's a cousin of Commissioner Brian Deloge.
it's their appointment, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm surprised we don't see Commissioner Mushroom's name on here.
Well, you can put it on there.
I don't know if he volunteered.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure he
Expressed a
volunteered.
desire to move on, as I recall.
Well, I don't know. He's a bicycle person, but nevertheless, we have a motion to approve the remainder. Are there any Okay. We have a motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next, I thought there might have been a change to our list, and that's why I asked that
Could
question.
you take the time to read them out just to the public so they know who they are?
Say what?
Just read
Edgar
the
Bryant,
names.
Mark Kastner, Matthew Littlefield, Karen Lowen, Tom Prebis, and Johan Van Tol.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next item.
The next item is item number 13.03, approval of resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a revised gas supply agreement with Tennessee Energy Acquisition Corporation. And Commissioners, in 2006, the city entered into a long-term prepay contract with Tennessee Energy Acquisition Corporation, better known as TEAC, for the purchase of natural gas over a 20-year term. The prepay mechanism is a bond transaction that provides for the city to receive gas at a discount to the market, about 0.7 MMBTUs. And to date, this has resulted in savings for us and to the customers of the electric and gas utilities of over $600,000 annually. The gas supplier and the holder of the bonds, Goldman Sachs, is now interested in disposing of these bonds. TEAC has thus proposed to the city and to other participants that have taken advantage of this prepaid contract the opportunity to receive a present cash value payment in exchange for a reduction in the quantities of natural gas delivered over the next 13 years. The payment of approximately $1.7 million will reduce the cost of fuel for our electric and gas customers. The recommended action is to approve a resolution authorizing staff to execute an amendment to the contract with TEAC that will reflect reduced gas supply and provide the $1.7 million cash payment. I do know that each of you have been briefed on this item, but if you have any questions, David Byrne and Rick Fernandez are here to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Commissioner?
I just want to commend our utility department and the forward thinking of getting involved in this to begin with, giving us a savings for our customers, as well as a windfall now that can be used to stabilize future increases. I think it's good work. Move the item.
Second, one point, Mr. Mayor. Last time we were in a similar arrangement, we heard from some people that, the city may have experienced maybe not getting the best rates at certain points at any point in time on the spot market. And I just want to use this as an opportunity to remind, citizens that it's not the utilities' interest to race and beat the market. In that scenario, you can win some days and lose very big other days. And I think, watching the last 3 or so years on the market, that's been proven to be very, very much so true. But as a government, and in the interest of providing our customers stability and predictability in their costs and their electric utility, our businesses and our residents tell us more than not that that's exactly what they're looking for. Not for us to beat the market, but that we get a reasonable rate. And the way these guys have been hedging, they've actually been saving us money on many occasions. But they want us to get a reasonable rate, and they want those rates to be predictable. They want them to be balanced from month to month, and they definitely want us to do the best we can at leveraging their resources. So kudos to staff for the work that they're doing, and to those who think we should be racing the market, that's just not how this government acts responsibly.
Anybody else? This is the reason why, I'll just say, this is the reason why we're the #1 public utility in the nation. It's actions such as this and the staff that recognizes these kinds of action. And can we win #1 twice in a year, twice in a row, 2 years in a row? You can't do that, Rick?
Well, we don't know. We were nominated by somebody else last time, and so we don't know that we'll be nominated again.
All right, well, let's shoot for it anyway. Thank you very much for everything. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item.
Commissioners, before we go to the next item, I would like to just make a comment. Terry Lowe, who is our fleet operations manager, and who has been with the city for a number of years in various positions. This is his last meeting today. And he was here, and I saw him go out the door, and I had texted Rick to ask him to grab him before he left. because I wanted to just thank him for his service to the city of Tallahassee. He's done a great, great job with our fleet operations. We have stepped up 10 steps in the years that he's been involved there. And you know some of the exciting things that we're doing out at Fleet. And we really hate to lose Terry, and just wanted to be able to say that before he leaves. Terry, would you just stand so we can give you a round of applause?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I could just add, I remember from one of our target issue meetings, staff bringing real innovations around how we've saved money in fuel, different inventions that staff have come up with to find new innovations within the fleet department. And, you know, you don't every day hear about government innovating in ways that save people money, especially when there's not a big bonus for you at the end of the day, Terry, sorry. But I just want to acknowledge that I appreciate you operating and running your shop like a real cost-centered and cost-conscious operation, and one with great integrity amongst you and amongst your employees, and one in which you set the bar for innovation and hard work and new developments, even if, you know, a big profit wasn't at the end of the day, but a hearty thank you and an appreciation to your staff was what you could offer. It's amazing to stimulate staff in that kind of way. So congratulations and good luck.
Hear, hear.
Yes, Commissioner.
Well, I would like to also recognize you because of the fact that when I first came here a couple of years ago, in all the tours that we do, I was amazed. I really feel like you've shown a tremendous amount of leadership in diversifying our fuel sources in our vehicles, and CNG, biodiesel, all of that is electric. We have all of those types of vehicles in our fleet, and I know that is under your management. I very much appreciate it, and I'm very sorry to hear that you're leaving.
Terry, thanks. Job well done. It's the kind of employees that, you know, permeate, quite frankly, this entire commission. Dedicated employees, employees that really mean something to our citizens, and they want to do a great job. And you have done that. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is not Terry's last day, but it is his last commission meeting, so I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize him.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you, Terry.
again, Terry.
Okay.
Next item.
The next item is 13.04, discussion of report by Lombardo Associates on management options for on-site sewage treatment systems in the Wakulla Springs Shed. And Commissioners, this item is presenting background information on the report by Lombardo Associates Incorporated regarding wastewater management options to reduce nitrate discharge from septic tanks in the Wakulla Springs Shed. Water quality at Wakulla Springs has been in decline for more than 2 decades, and scientific evidence links the decline to elevated nitrate levels. There are a number of sources of these nitrates, but wastewater management is certainly one of the larger sources. The city has invested heavily at our wastewater plant to reduce the nitrate in our treated wastewater, and we've been very successful in that regard. We've exceeded our share of nitrate reduction, but more nitrate reduction must be accomplished by other entities if the total maximum daily load is to be achieved to protect Wakulla Springs. This agenda item today is being presented to provide information to the Commission as we look down the line to decisions that we may need to be involved in. And I think I would also like to ask Commissioner Miller at this time, who has been very involved in this topic area, if she'd like to add any comments to this before a very brief presentation.
Just briefly, I wanted to begin to lay some groundwork because the ongoing conversation in the community has already begun regarding how to address this problem. It's begun on several different tracks. Number one, the Lombardo study has recently been released. Number two, there's a great deal of discussion, as Mr. Baines mentioned, about sales tax projects that might address the problem. And also, the total maximum daily load for Wakulla Springs has just recently been released. These are all items that we're going to be addressing as a commission, and they're fairly complicated, and I wanted to just begin to get this information in front of the rest of you so that you could be aware of the general basic tenets of the argument and what the possible sources of remedy are. So with that, turn it back over.
Let me just say, I just want to commend the staff for going through this. This is a very detailed report on this subject. I mean, very, very detailed, and it's something that we need to acknowledge and understand how it really protects our area in the south of us. And the city has done a wonderful job in that arena. We must have partners to the south of us who understand what their commitments should be in this regard. And with that, we'll have the presentation. We're going to have a presentation. John, it's not going to be as long as the others we've had in our target issue meetings, or is it?
No.
Okay.
I understand Commissioner Maddox needs to leave, so I'm going to jump right past a lot of this material, if I could, and really just kind of go sort of near the end. Get this to turn on.
Do you need Michelle Bono's help?
No, there I
Got it.
believe. The written material is pretty well summarized that, we've done a lot with our wastewater plant. We've reduced our load dramatically more than we needed. And this is now what the Lombardo study really focused in on was the septic tank problem. And there's pretty much general agreement that something has to be done about septic tanks or the TMDL won't be met. What this slide shows on the left-hand column was the loading down at Wakulla Springs before the AWT project, which we're getting 229,000 kilograms a year. But the various sources, those different colors are the various sources, and the large green at the bottom was the city's load from the wastewater plant. Then there's septic tanks, and then there's what is called inflow. Let me make a quick distinction there because it's important as you go forward. The red, the brownish red, that's septic tanks south of the Cody Scarp, pretty much south of the fairgrounds, that area. The blue is inflow. It includes lots of sources, but it's all the septic tanks north of the Scarp. But what Lombardo has determined is financially, we really need to focus on reducing the red there. Now, as you go to the right-hand column, that's post-AWT, you can see the green got much smaller. And but even with that being smaller, you can see that the right-hand column still goes above the TMDL line. That's the red line with 110,000 kilograms per year there. So we've still got to get 45,000 out. And the sources, again, are over on the right. But those ones that are circled up near the top are like agriculture, atmospheric deposition, fertilizer, the inflow. Those are things you're not going to be able to manage much. The one at the bottom is the Southeast Farm, which has already been reduced, and that pretty well leaves, as Lombardo concluded, the brown, which is septic tanks. And they need to be reduced to pull out that 45,000. He has methods of doing it where he can get down to the TMDL.
Go back to that one, John, again, in the last bar, the last column.
That would be a future condition where if we address the septic tanks, then combined with the reductions that the city's already made, we can get down to the 110,000 kilograms per year level.
But if I understand you correctly, that means we have to reduce the reddish brown to that level
Yes.
to get there?
Yes, and that reduction, though, when you consider all septic tanks, is not excessive. It seems like a lot for those septic tanks. But understand septic tanks aren't very efficient. It's up in the order of about a 90% reduction for them. But, while the city was putting on 12 milligrams a liter, we dropped to 3, 75% reduction. Septic tanks are putting out 30 milligrams per liter. So when you take them down to 3, you've really made a dramatic reduction. And there's technology out there to do that. The question is, how do you make it affordable? And he's got quite a bit of material on that, which is probably more complex than to go through right now, other than a couple of summary notes. But understand, when you'll see in a lot of his recommendations, what he generally says is all the septic tanks south of the Cody Scarp within our Springs Protection Zone need to go to AWT. But when he says AWT, he doesn't necessarily mean hooking up to the city. He means, you may put in a package plant that gets AWT limit, or you may put in an expensive septic tank that can treat down to 3 milligrams, but you must go to 3 milligrams a liter nitrate. And that's an important point as discussions on this go forward. When you hear the AWT word come out of that study, it doesn't necessarily mean hooking up to our plant. He gives specific recommendations. That's too small to see, but those are 6 areas right in there where he says, well, for instance, up here in Wakulla, or around Lake Bradford, he recommends sewer. West of Woodville, he recommends city sewer and some cluster systems. So he's got some pretty specific recommendations in here. On affordability, he did a financial pro forma. Now, it's not exact, but it's good enough to know whether you can get there. There are 3 options here, 2 of which are unaffordable. The first 2. What those really represent is, if you're going to address all the septic tanks in the community, but those south of the Cody Scarp need the expensive treatment systems, and those north of the Cody Scarp can continue to use conventional, you're going to have to go to a concept of what he refers to as equivalent sewer service. It's much like the city of Tallahassee. We pump sewage all the way from the north side of town. It costs us a lot more to treat that sewage than for somebody on the south side, but they both pay the same. Same concept here. You'd have a responsible management entity for septic tanks. There would be more expensive septic tanks installed on the south side of town, less expensive on the north side of town, but all would pay the same. That's what the bottom concept is, and I just want to point out that it's about $65 a month, which is very, very close to what people in the city are paying. So, there's work to be done, but it's not totally impossible. It is a lot of money when you see the total all at one time. He outlines what the next steps are. He recommended a wastewater management plan. That's where you sit down and you really figure what you're going to do in various areas and how you're going to pay for it. And the other is a facility plan, which is more of a preliminary engineering document. So those things are all there. There's guidance in there. And to get started, he suggested the way to get started is to use a municipal service benefit taxing unit to put a fee on folks that use septic tanks. It could be very small, perhaps $1 a month. Very similar to what we did with the stormwater utility when we got it started. But that gives you some working capital to do these studies, et cetera. So.
But most of the septic tanks are outside of our city limits. We only have, 180 left in the city limits? Do I have that number right?
Well, there are 118 in this particular zone.
Right.
We've already provided sewer to the majority of those.
Right.
By this time next year, there'll only be 24 of those that don't have sewer available. They're not connected.
Right.
But that's a whole nother topic we don't probably have time to get into.
But most of the sewage, most of the septic tanks, current septic tanks, are in the unincorporated in the county.
Right. The purpose of me going through this, I think what you're saying is this really isn't our problem, and that's true.
Well, it's all our problem,
Right.
but there is a responsibility on the part of different governments to do different things.
Right. I think we need to encourage at every opportunity folks to be more aggressive in managing this, because it can eventually come back to become our problem.
Right.
Because the TMDL will not be met if they don't reduce the load.
Commissioner?
I wanted to, really, by the end of the conversation today, I wanted to kind of get a perspective on the size of our share of the problem, basically. And when this report began, we were all three equal partners. Three different governments went together to fund this report as equal partners. In the meantime, while the report was being done, and I think actually prior, the City Commission had made a commitment on the part of the city and the city residents to go ahead and bring our wastewater treatment plant up to AWT standards. That has now accomplished the goal several years early of the 75% reduction. And so our residents are paying for that every single day. Every month on their sewer bills. Yes, they are. And so now we have this report that addresses, that labels all the different contributors. And I just want, if you could possibly fill us in, if you have it right there, on the number of septic tanks we have that Leon County has in the spring protection zone, outside our service area, basically, and how many we have, and how many city septic systems are contributing to this problem.
Very few.
I think that slide, if you can see it on your screens, there are some 39,000 septic tanks in Leon County. There are 50,000 in the two counties together. The city has, I think, 1,084, if I remember right, in the entire city. 82% of those have sewer available. In terms of this target area, south of the Scarp,
right.
Leon County has 7,500. We have 118. And again,
of which,
21 of those have sewer available.
Exactly. Only 21 septic systems in the Springs Protection Zone that aren't served by sewer. And so that's where we stand. I'm looking at this from the perspective of our ratepayers, and there's really, in my view, there's not a whole lot more that we can do to solve this problem. And if you have any other suggestions about that, I'd be delighted to hear it. But as a city government, I really don't, I don't know what we can do. The provision of sewer to the unincorporated area at city resident expense doesn't seem, is that what's being asked of us?
No, I don't think so. I think the biggest cause for concern is that it doesn't appear that anything is happening. And that will become a regulatory problem eventually, sooner than I thought, actually, in all likelihood. After we submitted this agenda item, the planning department got communication from DEP that they want to start the Basin Management Action Plan for the Wakulla River TMDL. And when you add the numbers up, they're not going to work.
My last question is, do you feel like there's a misconception in the community about the city's role in addressing this problem?
I don't know with regard to that. I do know the city has more than handled its share of the load, made the other reductions smaller than they would have otherwise been. But unless what remains is reduced, there will be regulatory problems.
Commissioner Miller is right on point, as well as Commissioner Ziffer, in terms of what this means. And to a certain extent, we have to face what I believe is to be financial reality of this whole thing. And the financial reality is that we cannot, as far as I'm concerned, allow our taxpayers to pick up the lion's share of this issue when we're not the cause of the problem. We have done a lot in the city of Tallahassee to mitigate this issue. We have done a lot, as indicated by the charts. It is now left up to those individuals or those the governments south of us who have the 7,500 septic tanks in their area that are a part of this problem to address it, and as well as Wakulla County. They have to address it. They have to get on board with the program, because I don't think it's fair to our ratepayers, our customers, the people in our city, to pick up that tab. when we have done a tremendous job in trying to reduce that. I remember very vividly when we decided to do the wastewater treatment, the TS wastewater treatment facility. And we were told that the facilities that we had or what we were using was causing a problem. And we all said up here, if we are causing the problem, we're going to address what we're doing and we're going to try and solve the problem. And we did. And we did. So it's now time for other governments in this community, in this area, to step up to the plate. And I understand, I read in the newspaper that the county is considering it in some fashion or form. And I understand that they may be looking at blueprint dollars, if they get it, to address it. And maybe, hopefully, they will, because we do need to extend sewer service to the south part of this country. We're prepared to do it, as I understand, but I'm not prepared to have our ratepayers, our taxpayers, foot the bill for that. It just would not be fair. And that's where we are in this whole thing. Go ahead.
And just to build on the mayor's comments, I feel like that we're getting into an equity issue here where our ratepayers are basically looked to constantly to solve the problem because we're the city. But, and that's why I wanted to put some perspective on this and the fact that there is a problem. And during the time of the report being generated, literally, our citizens have already stepped up. They've already stepped up. They are paying, but they are the only ones that are paying anything at this point to solve the problem. And so I am just trying to protect their interests, basically.
I don't want our citizens to get misunderstand. What they're paying right now is correct.
It's our share.
It's our share. We're paying for our share. What I don't want to happen is we end up paying more than our share. We're paying our appropriate share at this point. Commissioner?
Yeah, just to understand where we are in this process, is the recommendation that we have a city commissioner and maybe a county commissioner, and I'm not sure if you call on other counties to a table to talk about the state of things. I mean, the sit and sort of wait for this all to be done and then TMDL numbers to come in,
Right.
and then think that we ought to do something, to me is way late. So if this is a shot over the bow, then I think we ought to formally assign someone to move forward with committing a conversation to at least those players that have involvement here.
Commissioner Miller is very well versed on this, and if she would take it on, I think she would be the appropriate person to do it, to get these discussions started. The county has not done anything as far as I know. But I think if we would begin to suggest that they do something along these lines, why not? I think we should. Commissioner Miller, it's left up to you whether or not you want to take on this task. That's formidable.
Commissioners, I'd be happy to take the task on just because I've been following this for a lot longer than I've been here. But I think that as events evolve, as the discussions evolve, as the sales tax committee continues to hear more information, the time is going to be ripe to enter into all those conversations, and at that point I'd be happy to do that.
Well, maybe it's not, I mean, obviously, I don't want us to assume more responsibility for the solution than is ours. But I do think there ought to be some communication with the county to get a sense of sort of how they plan to address this issue.
Exactly correct.
And whether or not we can be of some assistance in negotiating through it. But the only problem with us sort of initiating it is it may signal we're sort of taking on more of our piece of it than not. But that's why I think there ought to be a conversation. We ought to figure out where they are, and I think we go, we go from there.
Commissioner Maddox.
Has this been supplied to Leon County or Wakulla County?
They're going to have Leon County is going to have a workshop on this report in January. The report's been done for well over a year now, but they had their Water Resources Committee and their Science Advisory Committee review it for them, and it's scheduled to be presented to the Board of County Commissioners in January, and so they should be up to speed after that.
That would be my comment, would probably be the perfect timing then for someone from the city. And the only cautionary thing that I would lend from one voice on this body is that while I think that this is a crucial issue and one that that our sister government should address in the same manner that we have addressed it. I do not believe that we should shift governmental capital plan responsibilities into joint blueprint discussions.
No.
So things that should be done in a capital plan of a government should stay there, and leaving the blueprint discussions and things that we can do jointly and are not readily available, readily identifiable as capital plan.
Agreed. Commissioner Ziffer.
Yeah, I was going to, in the agenda document, as I quote, as the franchisee for providing sanitary sewers in the unincorporated areas, the city is obligated to provide sewers to areas designated by the county, providing it is economically feasible to do so. And I think that's really where we are, and that is the cost is prohibitively high to do all this. And I completely agree with what Commissioner Maddox just suggested, and that is I would hate to see the blueprint extension have just a complete listing of capital projects that should be funded in a different way, be funded through blueprint, because our taxpayers are already footing the bill for this to be done in our area, and I think the county should be looking at another means. All the more reason, while we are the franchisee, to be impacted, for us to, I think, probably reach out as soon as that report is given to them and try to figure this thing out.
Let me make clear, when I said blueprint dollars, I meant the portion that the county would
theirs.
receive, okay? The
Agreed.
portion that the county would receive. I wasn't talking about the other piece. Those dollars can be used for this purpose, okay?
One closing comment, I know you're in a hurry. Although it's normally not appropriate to use sales tax money for studies, this thing will eventually pay for itself. They'll figure out a financial plan. It's getting the revenue to do that initial planning. And rather than build projects, perhaps some seed money from sales tax to get these next two phases would be a more productive approach.
But
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question. John, I know you've said this probably in target issue meetings, and I know you've said it to previous commissions, but I'd like for you to touch on what we know right now, and I know we don't know everything we need to know because some of this is sort of new. But what are the consequences of being found out of compliance? Are they financial? What are they? And do we know where that might go?
Well, they can become financial, but normally what they do is start to put moratoriums on your permitting ability. Now, that would be way down the road, okay? But there are cities on the wastewater side throughout the country who have not progressed fast enough and have ended up in a moratorium on new construction until they can get their wastewater plant expanded or something like that. And there's a rule in the administrative code that you can't cause or contribute to a violation of water quality standards. And so somebody else could not do their part, but we're putting nitrate in there too, so now we're all in the same boat. And that's the problem. And I would say where it would come to us first would be on our wastewater permit.
That's the same thing that happened to us, by the way, years ago with the contamination of Cascades Park. We didn't have a big dog in that fight, but we had a dog in the fight. And as a result of that, the responsibility was cast on everybody who was a contributor to that. And that's what we have to be mindful of. Commissioner?
Well, I just want to say that I have every reason to believe that the county commission takes this very, very seriously, and they're going to be addressing this on their own. I do think that we do need to have a connection to any opportunity or any discussions that are going to occur when it starts to come to decision-making and allocation of costs and ideas, formation, and as to how to address it. So, but they're going to have their workshop next month on this also, and I'm sure that'll be a good discussion.
Okay, thank you. I don't think there's an action required at this point in time, but it was
Except the report.
It was a good report. I'm glad you all got this. Commissioner Miller and I have seen it in more detail. A lot of detail.
We've heard more than one report.
But it was good. It was good information. It taught me a lot about what's happening in our Springs Protection Area. Next item.
Next item is item number 13.05, discussion and approval of resolution supporting Project Hunt as a qualified target industry and approving the required local match of up to $56,000. And Commissioners, we're recommending that you approve Resolution 12-R-68, which is necessary for the state to consider an application for assistance under the Qualified Target Industry Tax Incentive Program. The application is being submitted by a company which is considering Tallahassee as the site to establish a new legal research and technology support center. They will create 140 jobs in this process.
Mr. Mayor, this is preliminary. It is risk-free because of the heavy state involvement and the qualified program that ensures that it's risk-free for our taxpayers. I move the item.
I would like for Michael or Beth just to give us an overview so the people who may be listening in understand exactly what's going on and why I would favor it, quite frankly. Think it's a great idea.
Certainly. For first, in terms of just briefly what the QTI program is it's a state matching program. It's all predicated on the creation of new high-paying jobs. The salaries have to be above the area median salary in order to qualify. It has to be a group of targeted industries. And if the business meets that criteria, then the state will provide tax rebates on a basic formula. They do require that, as part of that 20% of the total tax rebate has to come from local government. It's a 20-80 participation. In our particular case, we cooperate with the county and we split that 20%, each providing 10. In this particular situation, we're talking about a company which is looking to set up a centralized function for its legal research and technology. It would involve creation of initially 100 new jobs, potentially an additional 40 jobs over the next couple of years. Medium salary for those jobs would be about $54,000 a year. In this particular case, a resolution has to be adopted by each local government. The county took the same action last night in order for the application to be considered by the state. We are one of several locations being considered by this company, and by taking this action, then that becomes an option or an incentive which can be considered when the company is making its final decision.
Second motion.
There's a motion and a second. This is fundamentally this is the first time I've heard something like this, and it really is a great idea. It's a back office operation for a fairly large law firm, an international law firm, as a matter of fact.
I'm not sure how much they want to get into it at this point, since we're shortlisting.
No.
Right?
I think that was part of this public, but anyway, I'm not going to tell. I don't know who it is. I don't have any idea who it is, but I think it's a great idea, and it's the kind of jobs that we could use in this community. So thank you very much. We got a motion and a second. All of those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item.
The next item is item 13.06, fiscal year 2012 budgetary closeout. And Commissioners, this agenda item is a presentation of the fiscal year 2012 final numbers for our government operations. As the city continues to be impacted by the economic slowdown, this report is actually good news in that it reports a citywide surplus of approximately $1.5 million. Of the city's 13 operating funds, 7 funds, including the general fund, ended the year in a surplus position. 2 funds broke even, and 4 funds ended the year in a deficit position. I know that you all have all been briefed by Raul, but let me ask him to come forward and just touch on the highlights and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Madam Manager, Mayor, and Commissioners. This is good news. I bring you an early Christmas gift. We did end the fiscal year on a positive note, which, if you'll recall, as part of the budget workshops, we had anticipated that we were going to have at least a little bit of a deficit in the general fund, but all the departments working jointly with the Office of Budget and Policy and Accounting have done a great job trying to mitigate expenses and trying to make sure that we ended the year on a positive note. As the manager said, we do have some funds that ended the year in a surplus position. Those surpluses were distributed based on the finance policy parameters, and I'll briefly go over some of those. And then some funds ended up the year with a deficit. Some of those were planned deficits, but they were a lot smaller than we had originally budgeted. The general fund ended the year with a surplus of about $3.6 million, which is pretty significant. $2 million of that is related to the sale of a couple of parcels that we were selling and we were able to sell before the end of the fiscal year. One was the old drive-through facility off by the Civic Center, and then the other one was property off Mabry Street that we sold to Goodwill. $2 million of that is going to the deficiencies fund. We are anticipating using that for the 2013 budget, and we will be working during this year to try to mitigate expenditures so we don't have to use that money, and that can stay in the deficiencies fund. The Building Code Enforcement Fund is...
Raul, at this point, tell us where we are in terms of policy related to the deficiency fund.
I was going to get to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's my grand finale.
Oh, okay, all right. I apologize.
The Building Code Enforcement Fund has also had a pretty good year, as you'll recall, when we set that fund up. Based on state statutory requirements, it was at the beginning of the downfall of the market. That fund had deficit positions for a number of years. We actually loaned money from the deficiencies fund to balance the budget every year. They made $710,000 this year, which is a good indication that activity is picking up in the community. That money is going to repay their loan. They still have about $1.8 million left outstanding as part of their loan. We think that over the next couple of years, they'll get paid off. The electric fund, we had budgeted a deficit of about $17 million because of various things that the electric utility has done, controlled expenditures and some revenues. Their deficit was only about $9 million, which is quite an improvement of what we had anticipated. The gas fund ended the year with a deficit of about $1 million, and non-fuel revenues are down by about 34%. And this is actually an afterclap of a mild winter. We had a pretty mild winter, and heating days were actually a lot lower than we had anticipated. That deficit is being taken care of by a transfer from their operating reserve, which we are depleting, and we'll be addressing that as part of the next budget process, as well as some money from their RR&I because they didn't have enough money in their operating reserve to cover that deficit. The water fund had a surplus of $3.3 million. All that goes to their operating reserve. Actually, that goes to their RR&I fund because their reserve is actually fully funded right now. The sewer fund ended the year with a deficit of about $900,000. That's about 2% off mark, which is not bad. And that also is being funded from a transfer from their operating reserve and RR&I. That also depletes the operating reserve for that fund, and we'll be addressing that as part of the budget process. Star Metro ended the year a lot better than we had anticipated. They required $200,000 less transfer from the general fund, and most of that is related to expenditure reductions and some additional revenues that they got. So they ended the year in a better position than we thought. The golf course continues to make a little bit of money. They had a surplus of about $47,000, and that goes to their RR&I to address future capital needs of the golf course. And I only have a couple funds left. Aviation fund ended up with a surplus of $2.6 million. That's distributed back based on our airline use agreement. Some of that goes to my fund, and some of that goes to credits to the airlines. The solid waste fund ended up with a surplus of $1.3 million, and that's mostly related to increased revenues and some reduction in expenditures. All that goes to the rate stabilization fund, so we can use that to mitigate any future rate increases that may be necessary. Stormwater broke even. The cemetery fund had a small deficit of about $34,000, and that's going to be addressed by using a transfer from their perpetual trust fund, which is there for that. And then fire fund ended the year with a surplus of about $1 million, and that goes to their reserve. As you know, the fire rates are set for a 5-year period. The first 3 years, we anticipate surpluses. Those surpluses are put in a reserve account to be used to offset deficits that we know we're going to have in the last 2 years of the 5-year rates. As far as the deficiencies fund, I think this is great news. We are now at $21.5 million in the reserve account for the deficiencies fund. As you'll recall, about 4 years ago, we had about $4 to $5 million in there. We brought some parameters to the commission. We've stuck to those. We've been able to replenish that. The policy level is actually $23 million, so we're about 93% of what the policy level requirements are. So that's a great news item. With that, that is the budget closeout. We do have one action item on here. The fire department has a fire hydrant maintenance project that the utilities actually do the work. And at the end of the year, depending on where we are, we need additional money or don't need additional money. This year, there is a supplemental appropriation requirement for that project, and that's identified in the agenda item.
Can I have a motion to accept the
Move
report?
approval, as well as the fire deal.
We got a motion and a second. Any comments? Anybody?
only that you all did a remarkable job this year with the closeout. And the only other note I would make as a tribute to our colleague, Commissioner Mushton, who I think marshaled us all to keep our feet to the fire year after year and making sure we replenished the deficiencies fund, which, as Rahul's already stated, over 90% fully funded.
I just want to, I think it's a marvelous job, wonderful job for us to end up the year like we had, considering where we were when we first started. But the surplus in the general fund, where does that come from specifically?
That is a combination of the sale of lands that we had as part of the true-up process of the internal service funds, the allocated accounts. The risk management fund, we went back and readjusted the reserve levels requirements for that fund based on the outstanding claims and claims that we knew were going to be coming in. There was about a $4.8 million surplus in that fund that was allocated back out to all the funds. The general fund got $1 million of that. So the combination of the sale of land, expenditure reduction in the general fund, and the reallocation of the risk management fund back to all the funds gave us that $3.6 million surplus.
And none of it came from an increase in taxes or anything like that?
No.
Not at all. And as a matter of fact, a lot of it came from a reduction in expenses. Is that correct?
We have reduced expenses. We've been doing that for a number of years, and we've been working, the budget office has been working closely with departments throughout the fiscal year to make sure that we're controlling expenditures so we would end up the year at least in a positive position.
I just want folks to understand that what we're doing and why we have a surplus largely is due to reducing expenses, which is what you all told us to do. And we've been doing that. And we got a surplus fundamentally because we sold some land and reduced our expenses, and we didn't raise taxes. I just think that's wonderful. I think it's a good thing. Commissioner?
We're obviously very early in this budget year, but as you mentioned, there were several different funds that we had to reach down to the RR&I, and you commented on how we'll deal with that in the next budgeting year. So when will you give us the next report on how we're doing in our current year?
When do I give you the bad news?
Well, it's not, maybe
say
not
that.
bad news, but I know, each year, you and now Heath, I know, will be doing a great job in keeping us in a balanced situation, but every year, usually around mid-year, we're given with what the challenges are. So when will we get that?
Heath is in the process of updating revenues and looking at the state numbers and all that. We should be bringing back an update to the commission either late next month or early February.
Okay, and let's see, I guess we probably won't know what the legislature impact on us will be until after the session, or we get some idea of...
Correct.
Okay.
We're not going off the fiscal cliff.
Keep us informed.
We will.
We don't
Thank
have
you.
a fiscal cliff.
The mayor says we're not going off the fiscal cliff. Well, first of all, I really went through this, and I had a lot of questions, and I thank you very much for answering all those. I really think all of you have done a phenomenal job in keeping everything in the road this past year without really reducing services, so kudos for that. What I wanted to ask of you are two things. Number one, if there's a possibility that we can get a budget update prior to our retreat, that would be helpful. I mean, that's a wish, not just throwing it out there. The second thing is that, we passed several amendments to the Constitution that have property tax implications. And so if you could give us an idea also during your budget update as to what the impacts of those are, would be helpful.
We're working with the property appraiser's office to get that information. Should have something within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just also thank Raul and the budget staff and Heath and all of the folks who have been our leadership team, who I have commended already personally, but I want to commend them again for stepping up when we asked them to on reducing cost. And also I want to thank Rick Feldman and his staff for completing another budget closeout. These are intense times for them.
Raise your hand.
They do many long weekends trying to get this done. Thank you.
All right, we got a motion, I hope, and yes, we do. A motion and a second to accept the report along with the addition related to the firefighters. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 It passes unanimously. Next item.
The next item is 13.07, and it is a presentation of the citizen utility payment process, and our treasurer clerk will handle that.
Mr. Cook.
Mayor and Commissioners, we appreciate the opportunity. Wesley Hall, our Revenue Division Director, is going to present this for us. You may not have had a chance to meet Wesley. He's been with us for about 90 days, so welcome, Wesley.
New kid on the block.
But what he's going to provide for us is some information regarding how we collect payments. As you know, we've made a number of changes over recent years, moving toward electronic and efficient means, and just wanted to give you a chance to see what we're doing and what we have done over the last few years.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mr. Mayor, I'm Wesley Hall, new Director of the Revenue Division. This presentation is designed to provide a summary of utility payment methods over the past 5 years. The Revenue Division has worked to develop more efficient payment options for its utility customers, with an emphasis on electronic payments without increasing costs. Here are the historic milestones that have occurred during this transition period, beginning with the closure of the drive-through center to the Smart Bill program that currently has over 30,000 customers. Sorry about that. The basic findings, as a result of the Revenue Division's efforts to provide a larger number of payment venues and more efficient payment options, has led to the following results. Electronic payments have increased to over 53% of total utility payments, compared to 30% just 5 years ago. In-person payments are below 15%. Traditionally, they have been above 25%. And mail-in payments have gone from 41.7% to 31.7% over the past 5 years. Here are the current payment options that are provided for our utility customers. These are the definitions for electronic payment methods that are currently provided for our customers. During the 2007-2008 fiscal year, mail payments was the largest method of utility payment at 41.9%. This was followed by electronic payments of 29.7%, and in-person payments, which include drive-through, reached 25.8%. In the fiscal year 2008-2009, mail payments were once again the most popular payment method at 37.1%. Electronic payments finished second at 34.9%, and in-person payments declined slightly to 25.3%. In June 2008, the City Commission approved a new remote payment option. In April, in April 2009, that option was activated. For the first time in the history during the fiscal year 2009-2010, electronic payments became the largest method of utility payment, reaching 43.6%. Mail payments dropped to 35.6%, and in-person payments decreased to 18.3%. In January 2010, the drive-through facility was permanently closed on North Monroe. During the 2010-2011 fiscal year, electronic payments rose to a new high of 48.9%. Mail payments continued to decline to 33.7%, and in-person payments dropped to 15.6%.
Wow.
Electronic payments jumped to 53.7% in the 2011-2012 fiscal year, the highest in its history. Meanwhile, mail payments continued to decline to 31.7%, and in-person payments dropped to 14.3%. In conclusion, the cumulative impact of these changes has been a significant shift in payments to electronic methods. Electronic payments have increased from 30% to almost 54% in the past 5 years. For many years, in-person payments remained above 25%. With the closure of the drive-through location and additional new payment options, we've seen in-person payments drop below 15% for the first time in our history. This concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Any questions, comments? Commissioner?
Can you describe CRT again? What's that?
CRT is essentially, we have bills that will come in without we'll have checks that'll come in without a bill, and that goes through our CRT process. And what has happened is we have a new system, some new technology, and it's much easier to process those now. But we get not as many as we used to, but we used to get quite a bit in for the past 5 years. But in the last 2 years, it's been declining substantially.
Got it. So at one point, we were discussing, outfitting like drugstores and
That's what we do, yeah.
bodegas, that kind of thing, with machines opportunities for customers to come in and pay. Is that in person or does that exist yet?
We do the remote pay. We have 18 remote pay locations across the county, and that's our in-person. They come in person, but for us, it's more of a technology thing because our people aren't handling it, and there's a small fee that's charged, but we do have 18 locations currently.
So
Sure.
where do they show up in this diagram?
In the other agencies, on
Right.
the electronic side, there's at 6.1% other agencies.
That's where it shows up
Almost
at.
all of that is those remote locations, because for us, they're electronic. We just receive a file. That's one of the things we liked about that process, is it's convenient for the customers. And for us, it's an electronic payment because we receive a file just like we do something else.
Like Don's Food Market, FSU Credit Union, King Food Store, those are fewer locations, and we got them strategically placed across the county.
Commissioner?
Well, that was the question I had to follow up on Commissioner Gillum's question. Just for the benefit of the folks that are watching and tuning in, could you run down that list of other agencies, just because people probably aren't, everyone's
locations.
probably not aware.
Yes, ma'am. We have Don's Food Mart, which is at 720 West Orange Avenue. We have Fair Price Food Stores on Paul Russell Road. We have FSU Credit Union. There are 5 locations, one on Sherrill Road, Thomasville Road, Crawfordville Highway, Capitol Circle Northeast, West Tennessee Street. King Food Store, South Adams Street, King Food Store, Orange Avenue, Onmark Food Store, Orange Avenue, Mini IGA Express, Lake Bradford Road, Quick Save, East Tennessee Street, the Tallahassee Leon County Federal Credit Union on Pensacola, the same one on Capitol Circle, and on Crawfordville Highway, Star Food and Gas, Woodville Highway, UPS Store on Capitol Circle Southeast, and finally Woodville IGA, at 9019 Woodville Highway. Those are our remote pay locations.
Madam Pro Tem, how has this, I would imagine with the in-person decreasing so significantly, how has this impacted the workforce? What have the shifts been like? Have we laid off employees, reassigned them? Where are the savings?
Wesley, let me speak to that, since some of that occurred before you got here, but while we were in this transition process. We did have a reduction in workforce. We were able to do a couple of things. As you recall, citywide, we looked at the voluntary separation initiative, and we were looking at some of these transitions in this process, including the closure of the drive-through. So we had a couple of people who took advantage of that, and we did not replace them because we knew we'd be closing the drive-through. We had 1 or 2 retirements where we did not replace, and then we had 1 or 2 where we had layoffs. So we've had a number of personnel reductions to accomplish it. So we were able to do it with a minimum of pain, given that the city had a couple of programs in place and people were looking toward retirement, but we did have some number of personnel positions reduced.
Got it. And then is there any particular method here that's used that significantly reduces the amount of sort of staff time associated with the payment method? I'm thinking specifically within this electronic payments. I don't really know what speed pay is, but I do know bank draft is, a simple transaction banking-wise, and I'm a little surprised to see that number not higher. I don't know. I would assume it would be higher here.
Go ahead and address
Yeah, what I've found is that we still have there's a group of customers that come in religiously, and when I say that, they're going to come in and pay cash or check, and no matter what form of electronics, some of them aren't savvy, or some of them are afraid of computers, and a lot of them are fixed income. They're going to be our cash payment customers, sure. And no matter what form we create, we're still going to have a great percentage of those individuals that come in.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, within the electronic payments piece, explain speed pay real quick.
Speed pay is essentially where you go to Western Union,
okay,
and you give them the funds, and they will make the payment for you, and then it comes to us in a report form. It's just simply a download for us.
Got it.
That's an
And then
online option for us,
e-box?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry?
that's an online option for us. People can go to Western Union online.
Right.
They don't have to go to a Western Union location. So a lot of that is online payments, students and others.
And then e-box?
E-box is very much similar. You go in to your computer, and you actually, the customer himself initiates that transaction.
Got
And then
it.
it comes to us in a report form. It's purely computer generated.
Okay, great.
Where does my e-pay fall in that? You know, I get the email,
Bank draft, I
Bank
think.
draft.
like the bank draft? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions?
Congratulations.
All right.
Well done.
Thank you.
Does this require a motion? If it does, I'm sure we have one.
It does not, Mayor.
All right, this is just discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
good report.
Thank you.
Next item.
The next item is 13.08, discussion and approval to file, execute, and administer the 2013 Florida Department of Transportation Service Development Grant to extend weekday service on Star Metro. And Commissioners, building upon the foundations laid by the city's first-ever decentralized system, Star Metro is seeking approval to use a Florida Department of Transportation Service Development Grant to extend the weekday service on 9 routes to be 1 hour later than the current route. Extending weekday services is a constant request from Star Metro's customers, and by adding this service, we would be able to provide an additional trip to destinations like Capital Regional Medical Center, FSU FAMU College of Engineering, and various retail establishments. We do get a lot of our customer requests from the university folks who say that the students who are attending evening and night classes really need some additional options for Star Metro in order for them to really see the system as viable. The funding that we're accepting is over a 3-year period, and it's a little over $400,000. We can match that amount of money with the current input that we have on our night service, so it doesn't require an additional expenditure. Let me ask Brian Waterman if he would come forward and answer any questions that you might have, or...
I don't have any questions.
Can you describe the routes, please?
I have a map, Commissioner. Thank you. Again, briefly, it did originate in the Transit Development Plan, where all our service development grants start from, as DOT requires. But real quickly, as requested,
Didn't figure out what that means.
here is the map. The red is what we would be adding over the course of that extra hour. Essentially, would have those routes in red go 1 hour, and it makes an extra trip in the evening to provide more connections, more opportunities for those customers.
So the time changes just from 7 p.m. ending to 8 p.m.
That's correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Good.
Move the item.
Second.
Properly moved and second, but before we vote, Ron Garrison, I guess we can vote first. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. We all know, I think we all know, we all should know that Ron Garrison has headed our transportation department, our bus transportation department for how many years now, Ron?
Almost 8.
8 years now. But he's decided he's going to take leave and go to another position. I want to take this opportunity to thank him for what he has done for the city of Tallahassee, for its citizens, his proactive, positive thinking on how to provide transportation services to our community. I know when he came to us first, he was extremely enthusiastic. And as he went on, he got even more enthusiastic about what he could do and how he could do it and what could happen with our transportation system in the city of Tallahassee. It was a bold and innovative move to change from the hub and spoke concept to a point-to-point concept. I think it was the correct move. I support it and will continue to support it because I believe strongly that's the way this community is growing. And the efficiencies associated with that will be realized, Ron, at the appropriate time. I think we're realizing them now, as a matter of fact, those efficiencies regarding that change and that move. So we're going to miss you, but I understand you're going to be around in the area. And one other thing I want to mention, and we have 3 electric buses now. We're going to get 2 more electric buses in the city of Tallahassee. And this summer, when we get to 2, we will be what? Ron, come up and tell us what that means.
It'll be huge, right?
It'll be huge. I mean, this is just huge.
Tell me what that means. Tell us what.
It'll be huge. Mayor, we'll have the largest electric bus fleet in the world for a short period of time, but the largest in the world. And we're very excited about that and very excited for our citizens.
Well,
Are they in service yet?
I don't know.
We have 3 buses here now. They're being tested. We have to build the station to charge those, and we're hoping to put those in service this summer, all 5.
In 13?
2013.
Okay.
The innovation and the innovations that Ron has brought to us is just really remarkable. His ability to go out and find funds for this operation, realizing that transportation services in all communities operate at a deficit. He has made every effort he could to reduce that deficit, and he has been successful. So I think you're to be commended. Thank you very much for what you've done for us. And Commissioner Miller.
Well, I want to add my thanks. I've actually followed all of this change along since I was in graduate school in 2004, and it is an absolutely massive change that was needed. Everyone knew it. You've gone through it step by step by step carefully. You've not been afraid to take chances and step out there and basically doing what you knew had to be done. And so I know that it's been a real strain because you basically we've taken every single rider was affected. So that's a very difficult transition for everyone involved, and you have made that it's been, challenging, but the numbers of people complaining went down and down and down and is now stabilized, and our ridership is actually up in spite of what you expected. You expected a little bit of a downturn, I understand, due to the transition that everyone had to make, and yet we have managed to maintain and increase somewhat. I know that you're going to I don't want to say a better place, but a very exciting job opportunity in a wonderful community. And so I wish you the best of luck. And again, I thank you for what you've done.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
Ron. There were other things that Ryan did, by the way. You see the new bus covers out there and the pads, and a lot of those things. He's put up poles so that everybody can know where the buses are. And our system eventually going to be able to use your you can do it now, can't you? Cell phone to determine where a bus is, when it's going to be there. It is those kinds of innovations that have made this bus system what it is today.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you a lot.
Let
Yes.
me also share my congratulations to Ron on the new position that he's accepted, and thank him and his family who have been intricately involved in his work here, and not just for the city of Tallahassee, but in the Tallahassee community. Ron has been extremely involved in programs with the Hope community. Yeah. He's taken the leadership, and we appreciate all that he's done in his 8 years here, and wish he and his family the very best. Let me also say that I think you all know Ivan Maldonado. Ivan is going to be the interim director for Star Metro as we do our search. And you've heard him present to you before, but I'm not sure if you knew that he was going to be acting in the position. But I wanted you to know that as well. But again, Ron, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. That was a discussion. We need a motion.
Mm-hmm.
I think we
Move
did
the
that.
item.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. $952,000. Next item.
We have a target issue update, Mr. Mayor, from Commissioner Ziffer on the quality of life target issue.
Commissioner Ziffer.
I'll make this brief, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. We had 3 different topics of discussion last week. One had to do with Palmer Monroe Teen Center. The Teen Center is actually coming up on 3 years, tremendous success, and we are now going through a process of determining how management structure and funding will continue beginning in fiscal year 14. We'll be going back to the current funding partners and reaching out to them to have a discussion of how we move forward in the coming budget year. We also discussed the Change for Change program. Michelle Bono in Communications Department has come up with, I think, a fairly aggressive marketing program that will be kicking off in the first quarter of this coming year. Up to this point, since 2004, there's been about a little over $400,000 that's been raised in the Change for Change program, which now we're averaging about $64,000, which seems like a lot to go towards homelessness, but we seem to think if we promote it correctly, there are an awful lot more utility customers that will want to make an effort to take part in that. So we have an aggressive marketing program to allow customers to opt in to support that program that funds homeless support in our community. The third item is some housekeeping, working with the county, just to standardize some documents and procedures in the CHSP process up to this point. Most have been, but there were a couple we still needed to deal with, and so we're working with the county in resolving those and have those just about wrapped up. And that is the report of the new Quality of Life Target Issue Committee.
Any questions, comments? Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. We have...
Unagenda speakers.
We're going to go to unagenda speakers. That's a great idea. Unagenda speakers?
Here we have two. Just before they come, I want to make sure I clarify on the votes on consent. The vote on consent was 4-0, and on the item that was pulled, it was 3-0, but only one of those who did not vote needs to file
right. That is correct.
Commissioner Miller. That the record was clear that only one of those was Commissioner Miller's statement that she made. And the first speaker is Curtis Baines, followed by Erwin Jackson.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Curtis Baines, 1323 East Tennessee Street. I want to provide my year-end report to you. I don't have a big PowerPoint presentation, so this will be quick. First, I wanted to just recap a couple of issues. We've spoken about a couple of them tonight that are ongoing that I've been speaking about. One had to do with the Southside Sewer Extension. We talked about earlier, Mr. Mayor, I understand, and Commissioners, that this is a county issue, and my action presentations have been to the County Commission, and my informational presentations have been to you, so that I try to keep everyone informed about that. And then, of course, there's the Star Metro extension or conversion or whatever we're going to call that from the hub system to the what I call the decentralized system, and expand some of the sales tax money that I think you had asked for or are asking for, helping to finance the expansion of that system. I also wanted to take a moment to thank you for your efforts this year, even though there are still, in my opinion, a few things that are still in the works that we need to deal with. I wanted to thank you for your efforts. I know it takes a lot of time on your part to attend all of these meetings and all of the other businesses that's before you. I wanted to wish you a happy holiday season, safe holiday season. I look forward to working with you next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Erwin Jackson.
Well, that's disappointing. I had a video and everything for folks to listen to, so I guess it'd be a shorter presentation, and I'll have to present it to the first of the year, but I thought it was appropriate to wrap up the year. Last week I pointed out that John Marsh, regarding ethics defense, that he used regarding his ethical issues was simply, I didn't know that Honeywell was a client of my law firm, Ladorno Yoss. Now, contrary to the judge's decision, the facts, and these are facts on this form where he recused himself a year and a half, 2 years ahead of time before he had ethics charges filed against him. He signed a document saying, yes, Honeywell was a business whom I am retained. So the question is, how, in one written form, can the mayor say, yeah, I know Honeywell works for the law, or represented by my law firm, and I'll sign a document swearing to it. But then when he's under oath, he says, well, I just don't remember if Honeywell was represented by my law firm. Now, that's an obvious conflict that I don't think anyone here can explain. So it's like the question, did Mr. Marks lie to the judge during the trial, or did he lie to the public when he signed this conflict form? It can't be both ways. Mr. Marks also told Judge Stevenson that he never contacted Adorno Yoss to ask if Honeywell was their client. Well, the fact is, though, prior to the actual vote for giving us the Honeywell $52 million, he sat right here, and we've got a beautiful video, and I hoped I could show it to you. He sat right here, and before he voted, he said, commissioners, and to the public on TV, my law firm did a thorough investigation in conjunction with Jim English, and my law firm confirmed that Honeywell is not represented by my law firm. Well, that was just a stated fact. Then he voted to give Honeywell, who in fact was represented by his law firm, $52 million contract. That's direct opposite of what he told the judge as his defense. I didn't know. Well, he went ahead and said also to the judge, I never contacted Adorno Yoss. And the fact was that he did, it's on tape, and now it's being ignored, and that's a serious problem. Thank you very much. The only Christmas question I have on my Christmas wish list is, Mr. Mayor, you would please explain whether you lied to the judge or you lied to the citizens on that video. And I'll send all of you a copy of the email.
Mr. Mayor? Here.
Yes.
I wanted to quickly share something from yesterday.
Wait a minute, speakers.
Oh, no, I think that was only one speaker. I had the honor of going to one of the White House Christmas parties, and the way that you were able to walk in, you can hear these really, really amazing voices singing, but as I told a friend who was with me, the voices sounded like, like a grown men's choir. And I knew that we were sending the Tallahassee Boys Choir there on the 11th, but I figured maybe they were up in a different part of the White House. And as soon as I came around the bend, those voices were, of course, the Tallahassee Boys Choir, who sounded, absolutely celestial. They were dressed to the nines. They were so proud to be there in the White House. They lit up when I came around the corner, and I lit up when I saw them. And their parent chaperones who were there as well. And I just wanted to extend a thank you on behalf of them to the Tallahassee community who came together writing checks of $10, $50, and one case $5,000, maybe more than one case $5,000, to make sure that those young men had the opportunity to travel to the nation's capital and to sing for the President and the First Lady and their invited guests. It was a really, really exceptional performance. I'm not sure when they get back to Tallahassee, but I hope we'll have them here to recognize them for this amazing accomplishment on their behalf. They represented the city of Tallahassee and its citizens very well.
Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I think everybody, we need to do that. And I would, whatever was last week, we had the drum corps in here, which were fabulous. I would like nothing more to have just one song by the boys choir, so maybe we could do that, because we need to congratulate them and thank them. You're absolutely right. For them to be representing our city at the White House, that's a tremendous accomplishment.
And Commissioners, for everyone who came up to me, they're like, don't you represent Tallahassee? I was like, yes, those are our guys down there. Although I could take no credit for their skills. It did put Tallahassee on the map, and that was awesome.
You may have gotten the note, we're going to be having our retreat in January. I've had a great opportunity the last couple weeks where I've attended several events at our senior center. And while I've been there for events in the past, I was reminded that we really do need to hopefully try to find some expansion opportunities for them. It is an incredible place that is just, and Mr. Mayor, you were there today, and Commissioner Gillum, you were there today. To see the number of folks that utilize the senior center, and quite frankly, and this is where it gets interesting, is when I go and I realize that I've actually joined that and they are now my peer group. But I think we have some interesting things we'll be doing during our retreat. I'm going to ask, and it may not have been clear, but I'm going to ask each of our commissioners and the mayor, we're going to go have lunch with our senior citizens and break up and hopefully sit individually with them so they can ask us questions, but more importantly, we can learn from them. So I look forward to us having our retreat at the Senior Center this year. And also, I just want to announce that our Cultural Planning Committee, the Joint Cultural Planning Committee between the city and the county, has had their first meeting. They met this week. All 18 participants were there. An amazing group of people that represent not only our arts community, but our business community, our tourism community, and they were all so enthusiastic, and they've already set up their meeting schedule, and I look forward to them having periodic reports to this commission.
Well, Commissioners, I just wanted to ask you if you have an opportunity to go, and the public, to go by Cascades Park. You'll see the framework of the amphitheater is taking place. It is beginning to actually look like what we've all hoped it would be, and we're very excited about that and glad to see that. And finally, I just wanted to say that this has been a wonderful year, and I appreciate all of you very much, and I appreciate serving with you. You're a wonderful commission, and I hope you all have a very happy and safe and fun holiday season with your families.
To you too.
I got a couple of things. First of all, we had two individuals who have been a part of this community for many, many years, unfortunately passed away over the last few days. And they had this burial ceremonies as well. And that was Frederick Rick Bateman. I don't know how many of you know Mr. Bateman, but he was certainly a part of some part of this community. And they had his funeral services on Friday of this week. And also Elliot Messer. Elliot Messer also passed away, and his family has certainly been a stalwart in the Tallahassee community, a name that is everywhere. Messer Field, Messer Caparillo, law firms all over the place. And Elliot was, I can call him Elliot because Elliot was really truly a friend of mine. And in my young years when I was on the Florida Public Service Commission, he was somewhat of a mentor to me. And I can recall as well his wife and his kindness. And I want to say this because my wife at one point had an allergy and couldn't eat certain kinds of meat. And Elliot was a hunter. And he would bring over to our house some game that she could eat. Either it was deer, quail, or whatever, she could eat that. So Elliot Messer was a special person to me and my family, and I think we need to recognize that Mr. Messer is no longer with us. And let's just do a moment of silence for both those individuals who are certainly were part of our community. Thank you very much. I could tell some stories about Rick Bateman, but I'm not so sure this audience is ready for that. Rick was special. Rick was special. The other thing I want to mention was the seniors luncheon, which was really good. They had them at both places, at Smith Williams and then our senior center on 7th Avenue. It's just a wonderful thing that happens every year, at least once a year. Maybe we can do more for that. Hopefully we can. Also today, Commissioner Miller and I had the opportunity to greet about a 20-person Chinese delegation from Beijing, from the Chamber of Commerce here. They were here looking at some possibilities of obviously investment and some other cultural exchange activities with the city of Tallahassee. They were just absolutely delightful. And they are going to come back at some point in time with some more specifics as to what they want to do here and what the relationship they want to have with the city of Tallahassee. Of course, many of you know we already have a Social City relationship with a city regal in China, which has worked out tremendously well in terms of an economic development opportunity. So if we can do something with individuals from Beijing, the capital, that's going to be even more of an opportunity for all of us to do that, to be a part of that. And there's one other thing I want to mention too. Over the past week, I've had 2 conference calls. Commissioners, this is primarily for you. I have 2 conference calls, one with Vice President Biden and today with President Obama, related to the issue that we're all thinking about, and that's the fiscal cliff issue, going over the fiscal cliff. The President asked a number of mayors who happened to be on this phone call to really understand, and for our citizens to explain to our citizens what is happening and what this is all about. So over the next few days, based on what we have learned from what the President of the United States wants us to do, this is not a party thing. This is what our President wants us to do. And so I will be making some appearances, and if you want to, we have the talking points. We must get the information out to our citizens as to what this is all about, and if any of you would like to do that, please feel free. We have the information in my office. Now, with that, we have something really, really special to do. This was supposed to be done at the very beginning, but our honored guests, they weren't here at the time. Now they're here. So it does give me great pleasure to recognize a special group of citizens in the audience that are with us here today. Will all of the 11th Neighborhood Leadership Academy, please stand, and let's give them all a round of applause. Okay? Sit down, because we got a few other things we want to do before I proceed with my remarks. I would like to acknowledge that upon break, there will be a special recognition for the 2011 class, Neighborhood Leadership Academy graduates in the mezzanine area, okay? For anyone not familiar with this program, the November Leadership Academy is open to city neighborhood leaders and citizens who want to learn more about government and ways to enhance their community. That's the big part, ways to enhance their community and this entire community. It takes a major commitment on their part as they meet once a week for 3-hour sessions for 9 weeks and learn everything from how to address code violations to how the city generates electrical power. Very important. Now you know what we have to do to make sure that the lights stay on, okay? Great. That's important. Huh? Right, exactly. He says, and who to blame for not having electric power? Commissioner Gillum up there. Okay.
No.
The mayor's office.
Okay. Our goal is to empower these leaders and that they in turn serve as valuable resources to their respective neighborhoods and helping ensure that our residents know how to fully and effectively access the services available through the city. You heard something this evening. I hope you paid attention to the budget issue. And I don't know if they went over the budget issue with you, but that's very important. And for our citizens to understand how our budgetary process works. And if you understand the things that we have to go through in order to make sure that it's balanced. And we've done that. And not only that, did Raul mention that our pension fund was fully funded? We have a fully funded pension fund. There are cities in this state whose pension funds are sorely underfunded. So we are protecting not only our general employees, but our police and fire employees, because when they get ready to retire, the money will be there for them. And I would like to take this opportunity to make some sincere thanks to each one of you for your commitment and dedication to attending the Academy. Your participation in this process is a testament to the caliber of citizens, we have in this community. And once again, thank you for your dedication. And before we all give them another round of applause, I'm going to tell you who each one of them are. And as I call your name, please stand. All right? Bonnie Abelaro.
Sorry, excuse me.
Okay. Ingalil Atala. Did I say that right? I didn't say it right? Oh, she's not here. Okay. Jim Bellamy. Let's hold our applause until all, what that thing says, hold your applause until all of them are announced. Shivala Brown, Michael Collier, Kay Crawford, Sylvia DuPont. I don't see Sylvia here. I know her. David Ferguson, Jennifer Fishback, William Fixel, Emily Harris, Leon Hightower, Brenda Jackson, Kat Keene. That's an unusual name, Kat Keene. All right. Huh? Oh, okay. Short for Catherine. All right. Jim Kinnear. Now, here's one. How did you get this name? Jinx Kinnear. J-I-N-X. Thank you. It's a beautiful name. Regina Lindsay. Margie McInnes. Nicholas Polito. Nicholas, thank you. Gia Scruggs, or Gia Scruggs.
Gia.
It's Gia? Okay. Gertrude Shirley. Larry Simmons. Hey, Larry, how you doing? Pat Thomas. Sherry Thompson. And Vivian Treharn. Let's now give them all another round of applause. Thank you. What's next?
If you adjourn the meeting, Mr. Mayor, we will go to the reception in honor of our new graduating class.
If there's a motion to adjourn, all in favor of the motion?
There is a motion.
Say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. We're going to see you out in there. Thank you.
December 14th, 2012. Minimum training and experience. Possession of a bachelor's degree in business or public administration, or a degree accepted in the field in which the vacancy exists, or possession of a high school diploma